All right. Pretty cool. That's the first time I ever used that intro. It's actually, oh, this sounds like an action movie of sorts.
That was amazing.
Yeah, good choice. Good choice. Okay. I think we are live. Usually at this point, I just double check that there is audio coming through on the LinkedIn live stream, just making sure people can hear us. If people are tuned in, please let us know. Can you hear us? Where you're from, your name, things like that. And oh, nice. Okay, so I hear myself, so this looks like it's working. Cool. So a couple of housekeepings before we get started. Pretty excited to Steve, you didn't accept the invite as a speaker. Just noticed that.
My bad.
No, that's fine. But I'm very excited. I think it's been a while since we've actually chatted, right? A couple months? Is it a couple months?
That,
Probably. Yeah, a couple months. So very excited. Steve and I always did a lot of tinkering together, so this would be a pretty fun conversation. He shared with me one of his tools that he vibe coded. I think that's all the talk of the town nowadays. So very excited to chat with Steve a little bit more about his tool and some of the vibe coding experience. Some housekeeping, and then I'm going to turn over to Steve, is that this is a live stream, of course. So please do leave questions in the chat. And as they come up, we'll try to answer them as they come. So definitely do that. Love to be engaged, all that good stuff. Okay, turn over to you, Steve. I'll let you do the honors of giving a little bit about yourself. Tell the audience, a little about what you are like.
All right, great. Hello, everybody. I have no idea how many people are watching this, so I'm just going to assume it's 1 million. But yeah, so I guess to give you a very quick background about myself to set the stage, so that I know nothing about programming, and vibe coding is like a brand new, exciting toy for me. I originally did my undergrad in biochemistry, and then went right into a master's in molecular biology, and worked in wet labs for like 10 years after that. And I was very set on being a researcher and doing a PhD. But over those years, my love of science and discovery was systematically destroyed by the bureaucracy of academia. And I distinctly remember there was one night where I was sitting in a cell counter, or in a biosafety cabinet, trying to count cells at like 11:30 p.m. And I was like, I hate this. And so I decided to make a career change, and pivoted over to more clinical research and more data management stuff. I always kind of like had a side interest of tinkering with computers and doing kind of not coding, but just doing stuff with computers, basically. So yeah, just started working in a mental health hospital here in Canada, CAMH in Toronto. And so I was building research databases in a schizophrenia outpatient unit there. And yeah, that was much more my vibe. And decided to do a second master's in health informatics to sort of level up my skills in that area, I suppose. And yeah, that's kind of just what I've been doing ever since. I mean, I'm currently working at a health tech startup, and that's where Brian and I met. But yeah, more just kind of data stuff. And Yeah, never really been a big programmer. I did in my informatics masters, I did a course on machine learning with R. So I kind of
Hmm.
stacked all of my coding skill points on R, which has not really served me all that well in in my career. um, but yeah, I mean, I know a little bit of R, a little bit of Python. I've tried to learn JavaScript a couple times, but it just like doesn't work in my brain
Mhm.
for some reason. So um, it was quite nice to be able to build a web app entirely through ChatGPT, and yeah, I still have no idea how it works, but it works for my purposes.
Well, very cool nonetheless. Um, okay, well, thanks for the intro. Sounds like we're going to be talking about vibe coding, but now I know that biochem and wet labs was not your vibe. I think that's what you said, right?
It
Not
was
that
it was
vibe.
for some time.
Oh, for a little bit, a little bit.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's just dive right in. I know you told me a little bit about the fire study tool, and I think the name itself is implicit in what it is.
Yep.
But just for the purpose of the audience, make it easy for everyone to understand. Can you just in just a few sentences describe what is the primary purpose of what you built?
It's flashcard app. That's uh,
Nice,
so
short, sweet.
yeah. I mean, so I'm going to be writing the FHIR implementer exam in a couple of weeks, and I had done the FHIR implementer exam prep course, which was fine. But at the end of the day, I still needed to do some studying on my own. In particular, like literally just learning all of the resources in FHIR. And I started literally just by like writing flashcards. I guess you can't see that. There you
Oh, there it is.
go. And like on the back. And so I wrote out like 20 or 30 flashcards, and then I was like, this is boring. So instead of actually studying, I decided that I would try to make an app instead, with the idea that like I could just do it on my phone sort of during idle time rather than using social media and becoming filled with hate and anger. Um, so yeah, that was really kind of the crux of it, and just wanted to create a simple thing to help me memorize resources, and then it kind of expanded a little bit from there. I mean, it's not a crazy app or anything, but I did add in a couple of extra features which have been kind of nice to have.
Very
And
cool.
yeah,
I mean, that's like what I think that's one of the most fascinating things about vibe coding nowadays, or just like this age we're in with AIs and generative AI in particular, that we can do these kind of prototypes. So super cool. And I should have done this earlier, but just so the audience can stay engaged, this will nice segue into the next question for you. So, kind of know what the fire study tool is for now. Can you tell us about the key features? And then feel free to do like a little show and tell so the audience has a visual.
sure. Yep, I will. I got it up on the screen here, so I will
Sweet.
show it. Yeah, so it's like I said, it's pretty bare bones, and it's really meant to be like used on a phone or mobile. Um, and yeah, it's like never have any intention of trying to build any kind of commercial product or anything. It was really just for me as a study aid. But yeah, it's pretty straightforward. I mean, so it started off. I added maturity level later, and I guess I'll come back to that. But I started off just with category and subcategory. And so for Fire, if you're familiar with it, or the Fire homepage or the resources page, it groups all of the resources into these like different categories. So whether it's like the base or clinical, financial, specialized, or foundation. And then when you select a category, so let's say the base category of resources, then there's subcategories like individuals, entities, workflows, etc. So if I wanted, you could do, or I could do flashcards for the whole, whatever, 143 or some 56, something like that. Um, Resources there are, or if I wanted to just like focus on the base resources, I could do that. So once you filter down, well, I guess I'll say since I'm here too, like uh, after I was using it for a bit, there's a bunch of resources that are still like level 0 or level 1 maturity. And again, out of sheer laziness, I didn't want to study those ones because I'm just hedging that they're not going to be on the FHIR exam. So I put in this maturity level just to filter anything out, and basically stick into anything like 3, maturity level 3 or above. Um, But yeah, once you kind of filter down to what you want to study, you can just look at the flashcards. And so it gives you the resource name and then the definition. And, it's like any other flashcard app. You just kind of work your way through, nothing fancy. But I think like the other, and actually what I use more than the flashcards is the quiz component. So it's multiple choice quiz, I suppose. So it gives you the definition, and then you just need to choose whatever resource it is. So yeah, booking of healthcare event. So his appointment. Yeah. So turns green if you get it right. If you get it wrong, turns red, gives you the right answer. And then if you come across one that you get wrong or you want to study some more, you just hit the star button, and then it lands into my favorite cards here. And there's no like cookies or login feature or anything like that. So I'm pretty sure if I refresh the page, this favorites page is going to disappear. But like I said, I just leave it open in a Chrome tab on my phone. And as long as I don't restart my phone or accidentally close Chrome, then my favorite section stays populated. But yeah, that's pretty much all there is to it. Like I said,
Super
does what I
cool.
need.
So you use this, like, have you been primarily using this for your studying and in prep for the exam?
Yeah, I mean, this is more just kind of like filling board time and flipping through things. I mean, there's other like I said, I did the FHIR course and been doing some like FHIR blogging and like just reviewing my notes from the course. So it's definitely not my only means of studying, but it was just kind of like a fun little side thing.
Okay, cool. And I guess like maybe segueing to the next question, and I think you answered it a little bit already, but maybe two parts to this one, which is one, the question here, which is how this can be helpful to others studying FHIR, and then more in particular, I assume anyone can just go to the website that's up there and use this.
I guess so. Yeah, I think through Vercel, these apps are all just public facing. I certainly made no effort to try to make it private in any way. But yeah, I mean, like if you're just trying to learn, literally just memorize the definitions of FHIR resources, then sure. Like if you wanted to focus on, clinical diagnostic resources, you could just kind of skim through here. And there's nothing fancy going on in here that you couldn't just do like on the FHIR website. But it's just like small digestible pieces in kind of a easy to use interface. I mean, the one thing I will say about the FHIR website is like anytime you click onto a resource or just like anywhere on the FHIR website, it's giant walls of text that can be quite overwhelming, I found.
Mm-hmm.
So just to be able to, get like a 1 or 2 sentence description of a resource. I mean, hopefully will be enough. I mean, hopefully that's not going to screw me over on the exam because I didn't put in enough information. But yeah, I mean, a lot of them are also like pretty self-explanatory, so it's not, like I said, overly complicated. I guess the one other thing that I would add, which has been kind of cool, and maybe we'll get more into this in the vibe coding part, is that like in the configuration here, like so for each card, it's this just giant JSON file. And so I can actually put whatever I want in these definitions. And so if I do decide that like my definitions are a little too succinct, perhaps, then I can go back in and add more information, which I might do at some point.
Super cool. So you gave me a little bit of the inner parts of like, so this is where all the cards come from, I assume. This is your configuration of the cards.
Yeah, exactly. So, there's all of these app like JavaScript files that like I have no idea what they do. But I just know that they are pulling from this JSON file. And so, yeah, you can see the name, the definition, the category. So this is how I get the filters on the main page there. And then, yeah, this is the resource name and the definition. And at first, when I was creating this app, I asked Gemini to create this JSON file for me and just like go to the FHIR website and get all of these definitions. And it did a bad job. So I ended up having to create it manually. It got maybe like 50% of them. And then sometimes its definition would be like whatever it'd say, like name task, and its definition would be like it's a task. And it's like, okay, well, that's not super helpful. So I did end up basically manually going through every single one of
Mm.
these, and I mean, I did it in a spreadsheet where I just created a table with these 5 columns, and then it was a lot of copying and pasting from the FHIR website, which I don't know, wasn't I did feel was like kind of useful because it did force me to go through and kind of at least skim every single resource page.
Yeah, probably good anyways. Good exercise.
That was kind of what I figured. And then I mean, then it let me verify that everything in here was correct because Gemini's first pass was not.
Mm. Well, very cool nonetheless. Well, now that you are in the repo, probably a good segue to another question. We're kind of pivot away from more like FHIR stuff to more like coding things. So let me grab this next question off the screen here.
Sure.
So, all right. I think we talked about this earlier, but just like vibe coding is what seems to be on everyone's posts and comments all the time nowadays. Can you tell me what your experience was like? This is the very first time, am I right, that you vibe coded?
That is correct.
Yes. Okay, take it away.
Yeah. So yeah, like I said, I had a bit of experience programming with R and a little bit with Python. So I wasn't like an absolute noob when it comes to programming, but like I said, just JavaScript never worked for me. And so basically vibe coding, I mean, I think the first time I heard of it was like when you told me about it and you kept telling me how easy it was. And I kept being like, it doesn't sound easy. So yeah, I was kind of I don't know, nervous, maybe not nervous, but just didn't have a lot of self-confidence, I suppose, to try it. And I will say, like, when I did this, I did kind of like flounder for a little bit. I went in confident, and then I kind of went on a curve. I went in very confident that it was going to be fine, and then it generated the code, and I was like, "Oh, this is actually really easy." And then when I tried to deploy it, I was like, "I have no idea what I'm doing." um, but yeah, I mean, I can take you through my journey, I suppose. So it started where I asked Gemini to write a PRD or a product requirements document for me. Like I had a general sense that I wanted to make a flashcard app, and also that I wanted to like have some kind of quiz functionality. I'll zoom in a little bit here. But yeah, I basically just had like 3 or 4 bullet points that I wanted to create, or like of ideas that I had for this app. So I said like, I want to make an app. I want to use it on my phone, and here's a couple of things I want to do. And then I said, can you help me build this out into like a more comprehensive product requirements document? And it gave me this, and I was like, wow, this is like 10 times better than anything I could have written by myself. So that's great. And yeah, I kind of read through it. I made a few tweaks here and there. I think I added the star card, the ability to have a favorites page. But yeah, like progressive tracking and responsive design, I never would have like thought to say that myself. And yeah, these user stories, pretty standard stuff for PRD, but I didn't write them myself. But yeah, so I mean, I generated this in like 30 seconds and proofread it, and I was like, yep, this all sounds great. And then so I just took this and gave it back to Gemini. I was like, okay, now please make me this app. And I think I can't remember exactly where I started. I know that I tried both Gemini and ChatGPT, and I think I probably started with ChatGPT because that's usually my first go-to. But yeah, that's where I definitely was sort of floundering a little bit, because it created the app, and I was like, okay, great. And then like I don't know if anybody's ever tried this before, but when you write some code or write a web app in either Gemini or ChatGPT, it just gives you like a preview button, and you hit the preview button and you can just use your app. It's like, okay, like we're done. But then, I wanted to take the app out of the LLM and like put it in Vercel or somewhere. And so that's where things kind of like went off the rails, because I had no idea how to really do that. Like I know you had mentioned Vercel to me at one point, but I had forgotten. So my default guess was like, can I just deploy this as like a GitHub Pages website or something? Because literally I didn't know how else to make a website. And so in its usual obsequious way, ChatGPT was like, "That's a great idea," and then it was trying to like shoehorn this app into GitHub pages, which is like meant for static pages, and just like nothing was really working. And I was starting to get quite angry. But yeah, then eventually we figured out that I should use Vercel instead, and that became much easier. But even then, it was still a little bit tricky because it just had like a tailwind dependency for like this JavaScript framework. Again, I will strongly emphasize that I don't know anything about web development or JavaScript or web app frameworks. So trying to figure out like how to install those dependencies or those frameworks like into VS Code, even I was like took me a while, and then just like getting GitHub to work always takes me super long because it's just for some reason I don't understand the idea how repos work and like how to get the base. I don't know. I don't even know how to talk about it. So yeah, that was kind of a struggle. But once I got to the other end of all of that, and I was going back and forth with Gemini, and I think I abandoned ChatGPT at one point because I was just like, this isn't working. But yeah, once I sort of hit a rhythm and was able to get through with Gemini how to solve some of these problems, got it up and running in GitHub, or just got like the repo set up, and then Vercel is easy. You don't have to do anything. You just point your repo to it, and it just works somehow.
Super easy.
Yeah. And yeah, so once it kind of got up and running the first time, then I could start making some tweaks, like adding in the new maturity dropdown and going through and like tweaking that JSON file. And it's kind of been a set it and forget it after that. So yeah, I wouldn't say it was like super smooth experience, but I think now that I've done it the first time, I feel like I could probably do another one much quicker.
Yeah, I feel like that's a pretty common sentiment I hear too. It's just like the first couple times, it's like, especially the first time, it's like very frustrating. But hey, you got something public working deployed. That's already pretty cool. Okay, cool beans. What about this? Let's talk about the positives. What do you think worked really well when you're doing this whole process? What stood out? Easy, seamless.
Yeah. So I think definitely like I was pretty pleased with this PRD. And I think like in general, I don't know, I'm about to talk like an expert, even though I did this one time, but like I think having a PRD and clearly outlining what you want out of your app, I think is probably good. Because yeah, there were some things in here that, like I said, I hadn't thought of, like this responsive design, which is important for being able to use it on my phone. And yeah, things like clean and minimalist and intuitive navigation, like the stuff I just never would have even thought to ask for. So having those clearly spelled out and for me to read through it and be like, oh yeah, this is all good. I think that was really nice. And also, I mean, my current job is really more kind of product managery stuff. So this is more what I'm used to day to day. So it was nice to have some like familiar thing to look at. And then yeah, like when I fed this into Gemini and ChatGPT, like I said, the first pass where you can just launch the app right in ChatGPT or Gemini, like it just basically worked the first time. And I was like, yeah, this is great. And I probably could have just stopped there and just used the app in the LLM, and I would have been very happy. So yeah, that stuff all worked great. And then Vercel, like I said, was dead simple. Like it literally can't be simpler. So
Vercel is definitely a game changer for me too.
yeah.
But okay. Well, I feel like it is nice to have a little bit of a struggle now that you know how to do it. Now you know about Vercel. It's so much easier to launch that next app. I think you got a comment from Christopher over here, said okay with the check mark. I'm not sure what it was in reference to, but something you said.
Acknowledged.
Acknowledged. Okay. Now I guess like taking a bit of a reflection on the app that you built, which again, I don't know how many times I've emphasized this before in the past, but I think it's really cool to take an idea from conception to like actual execution. And like this is a live thing that anyone can interact with, which is like super cool. Given that, nice segue to the next question. What did you learn that you think you would change for the next step, if anything?
Yeah, I mean, I think the next go around will hopefully be a lot easier. I mean, at least for a simple app, I think like I don't know. Okay, yeah. So it's in the. Okay. Sorry, I'm just looking at the question has also come up on the side. Um, would I even do this again? If maybe the first question. Uh, I guess maybe yes. Honestly, despite like figuring stuff out here, I do have like some worry that if I were to try this again with a more complicated app, I would just run into a whole bunch of different challenges of like trying to get various JavaScript frameworks to work. Um, like I generally understand. Well, I know like React is a framework, and Brian, we've talked about Next.js or Node.js. I can't even remember. Um, and apart
Next.
from just watching like random YouTube like meme videos basically about these different JavaScript frameworks, that's about as far as my experience goes. So I do worry that if I tried to make something more complex, I would just run into a whole bunch of problems that I would just be too lazy to solve. But on the other hand, like I think being able to vibe code something like this and just have an idea and not even try to go into it trying to think like I'm going to build the next Facebook, but just like to build a tiny little tool for yourself to use on your phone when you're like standing in line at the grocery store. I think it's like that's what it's great for, because I never would have been able to build something like this by myself, or if I would, it would take me like 3 months and I would get the same output. I would be like, this is the crappiest app I've ever seen. It took me 3 months of my life. So the fact that like at the end of the day it took me like an hour or 2 hours to do maybe. So for that minimum amount of effort, for like the return on that effort, I think was like pretty awesome. And yeah, just to have a little idea and be able to kind of spin it up and prototype it very quickly, I think that's really like jokes aside, kind of a game changer, like revolutionary thing to be able to do with these LLMs for somebody with like essentially no code experience to just build a web app.
Yeah, super cool.
So yeah, I mean, I could see myself doing something like this. Yeah, if I had a little other study app or other kind of small thing. I think if I wanted to build like a big website, or there's sometimes I was thinking about creating like a job scraper and a resume builder, which I'd sort of tinkered around a little bit with, like building gems or other whatever the ChatGPT equivalent is. I think like getting into building a big project like that might be a bridge too far for me. Even vibe coding it, but I don't know. I
don't know.
haven't tried, so maybe it's not as hard as I think.
I'll make a comment and I'll share. Actually, I share his comment now. Lawrence had a comment there, so you can answer that. But one comment before that is my very first time using vibe coding and doing something like you did. I also used React, and it was probably one of the most terrible experiences that I've had.
Hmm.
And then going back to like that question of like doing it next time is, oh, that was kind of unintentional. I said next time. I would highly encourage using Next. I think I used Next on my second or third one, I can't remember, and it was an absolute game changer because a lot of these frameworks, they make it a lot easier and smooth to do a particular thing where it's like, oh man, this is just so much easier than what we did before. And I think it's going to make your experience even better. And I think as you learn more of those frameworks and stuff, it just, you're like, oh, this is super easy, easier
Yeah,
than you might think.
yeah. No, it's a really good point. I think like if I were to do this again or be more serious about it, if I just put in a bit of effort to like learn a bit more about the frameworks that are out there, even just like talking to LLM about kind of what the options are and what they're best suited for, and educating myself slightly as opposed to not at all, uh, probably would have made the experience a little smoother. I mean, I had heard of React, and it seemed to be one of like the big names in terms of like these web app frameworks. Um, so that's I just kind of assumed that it would be fine. And also, it's just was like the default that Gemini came up with. But yeah,
It, it and it's good. Just to elaborate, React is like a front end framework, and then Next is a full stack
mm,
framework. So you end up building like a whole end to end with like database, back end, front end, and it's built on a lot of React concepts. You have to know React to do Next well, but it just Next makes it so much easier.
Interesting. Yeah. Do you ever like? Have you seen the YouTube channel FHIR?
Yeah, yeah, I watch him a lot.
Okay, yeah, that's he's always talking about Svelte as his favorite
Uh,
framework, and but yeah, all of my web development knowledge comes from the FireShip YouTube channel, which is to say, it's not very helpful.
his I mean, his stuff is good. Yeah, I think I think I'm glad I accidentally stumbled on Next in the sense that there's I can't remember the name of their channel, Symbiot or something or Sim something.
Hmm.
Uh, they always there's like large surveys done on what's the most common like full stack type frameworks out there, and Next is like the easiest top one. There's a lot of reasons why you would go to these other ones for like optimizing performance or like some other certain thing you're trying to do, but beginner friendly, do most things, widely supported. Maybe I'm a little biased though. I think Next tends to be pretty easy to learn.
Hmm.
But those other ones are great. Svelte, I think I hear lots of great things about Svelte.
Yeah, I know we talked about this before, and I never took the initiative, but I would like to give Next a try, just because you are hyping it up so much.
Next time.
Indeed.
But here, you got Lawrence's question over here, and I think you got another question that came in afterwards. So, you want to take a stab at Lawrence's question?
Yeah, so I'm assuming people can see it, but if I were to do this again, which LLM would you pick and why? Again, this is an answer that comes ultimately down to my laziness and cheapness. So it's not about which the best one is; it's about what can I do it for free. And in this case, it happened to be Gemini because we have it at work and we have the pro plan there. So that was a simple choice for me. I only have the free version of ChatGPT because I can't bring myself to spend the 20 American dollars per month. And I think, I'm not trying to do anything groundbreaking here. So I think probably any LLM would be perfectly fine for the simple things I'm trying to do. I was talking to somebody today, already forget who, but they were saying that so far their experience has been that ChatGPT is the best for coding. I feel like I've always been reading that like Claude is the top dog, but I don't know. Gemini was fine for me.
I think ChatGPT was how do you say it? Was the best when I was using it in Cursor. It was, and I don't think it's the best outside of that, even though I use it a lot. Claude Code is what I hear most people talk. It's optimized very well for writing code. There's reasons why I wouldn't use it, but that's another topic. Nothing like controversial or anything. It's just like ChatGPT is just like a lot easier, at least from I use the paid version. That's why. But
Yeah, I think if I had the paid version of ChatGPT, that would be my go-to. I mean, that's what I use in my day-to-day life for just dumb stuff and sort of by default.
let me see. All right. Well, next question here. Where is the GitHub link?
The GitHub
Is it public?
link.
Is your GitHub?
It's a great question. I think so. Where can I tell if it's public or not?
On the top. It's so small. It's on next to FHIR.
Oh yeah, it's right here. Yeah, it's public.
Oh, sweet. Okay.
So here's my elite hacker GitHub name, and then it's just called FHIR Study App.
You want to share the link into the chat or comments?
Yeah, can I do that?
I think so, but I'm not sure. If you can't, you can send it in the chat, and I'll post it on the overall chat.
I don't see a place for me to put words in.
Here, why don't you put it in the
private chat?
Yeah, and then I'll paste it. Okay, here we go. Sweet. Okay, and that is only visible on Twitch and YouTube, so I'll paste it in LinkedIn as well.
Again, I take no responsibility for any of the code that's in there. I literally haven't even looked at it. There's probably a bunch of files in there that don't need to be in there.
That's
Yeah.
cool. It's a good learning experience. Front end code, I mean front end development in general, or web dev in general, I feel like is so much bloat boilerplate that it's very annoying. But it it is what it is.
Yeah.
Oh, and Jin says thank you very much.
You're welcome.
All right. Let's move on to, we have two more questions and we'll probably start to wrap this up. Here is the next one. What did you find to be the most difficult in terms of deploying?
Yeah, I mean, I think I touched on this a little bit earlier, but I would say again, just getting it out of like I said, when I first asked Gemini to write the code or create the app, and it did, and I could preview the app right in Gemini, I was like, this is the easiest thing I've ever done. And then it just immediately got 10 times harder when I tried to like put it into VS Code and put it in a GitHub repo. And yeah, I mean, I do use GitHub every day, so I don't know why I'm so bad at it. But like, just whenever I try to create a repo, it just never works for some reason, and it takes me like an hour. And I can't remember how to like create a branch, just dumb stuff, and like how to connect with VS Code. So yeah, that was hard. And then literally just downloading these frameworks, because when you are creating a React app, like you have to install. Like I literally couldn't even figure out how to install JavaScript on my computer, which makes me sound like a real idiot. But I'm just being honest that you can be a real idiot and still achieve great things.
You
Yeah,
can always
just
ask the LLMs too, right, for help on doing any of those things.
yeah, which is what I did. So that was
It
hard.
is.
It was hard just to get all of that working. I think at one point I was also working in like a GitHub code space because it was like easier to download the frameworks there for some reason. Like I couldn't get the permissions on my own computer to like I couldn't get pip, and not even pip, that's for Python, whatever npm it is, I think for JavaScript, that just like wasn't working for me. So yeah, just all of the basic computer use was the hardest part.
I empathize very hard with that. I went through it and I still go through it. It is, I don't know, it's just not intuitive. I feel like it's annoying to manage dependencies and install stuff on your computer. I don't know why.
It's like it's one of those things that as a guy that's like coding adjacent, like I have an interest in it, but I'm not a coder. It just makes like the bar to entry so much higher when you can't even like install a package. Like you can't even install the package installer. And yeah, I always found that, and that's always been a problem. I mean, that's kind of why I liked R so much, because you have R Studio and it's just like dead simple for how to do stuff. But then when I started branching out to Python and using VS Code for Python and like trying to figure out how to use virtual environments and install packages, that would always take me like hours to figure out. And then, yeah, like these JavaScript frameworks was just like a total write-off. And yeah, so that's why I think like using a GitHub code space, and Brian, I saw something you had written somewhere about using Colab, like Google Colab. I feel like that is maybe a little bit easier to start with than trying to go right into VS Code. But
yeah, but hey, you did it anyway, so
I got there in the end.
All right, so let's start to wrap up, and then I feel like I usually have some flavor of this type of question towards the end, which is, let's see here, let me add it here. It's like a two-parter question. It's just like, you went through the experience, you launched your app, you vibe coded, pretty cool. What tips and advice you have to others who may be trying vibe coding for the very first time? And then the second part of the question is other people who are planning to take the FHIR implementation exam, but that'd be part two.
Cool. Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest advice is the same advice that you gave me, which is like just to do it. It may seem intimidating, but like, yeah, you can sit and be intimidated and do nothing, or you can just like try it. And it was like, as I've said a million times, when I wrote the code and just left it in ChatGPT or Gemini, it was like incredibly easy, and I was shocked at how easy and good it was for extremely little effort. Like I was like, if I had known that this was so easy, I would have been doing this months ago. And yeah, that I guess is maybe the first thing, and then obviously like part of learning is just struggling and banging your head against the wall with things. Like if it wasn't hard to do, or like if you didn't struggle with something, you wouldn't actually learn anything. I mean, like I teach a course on data management, and that's what I always tell my students is like the whole process of learning is like being frustrated and struggling with something, because it's like that's how you problem solve and figure it out. So if you kind of just like price that in to your experience, knowing that like it probably is going to be a little bit trickier. There's things that are going to be hard, and just accept that as part of the learning experience. Then maybe you can approach it with a little more equanimity than I felt when I was doing mine. But yeah, just like it's literally just do it. That's really the only way to experience things. And if it works, it works. If it doesn't, it doesn't. It's not the end of the world. And yeah, it's like you can talk through any problem with LLM, and generally they'll put you in the right direction.
It's pretty cool. Okay, cool beans. Yeah, you got to get your reps in. You got to at least do something with it, right? Okay, maybe part 2 of this about FHIR.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how good my advice will be because I haven't written the exam yet, so I don't want to lead people astray. I mean, I guess I will say I did do the official FHIR implementer exam prep course that's offered through FHIR, and it was pretty good. I've done a couple things like courses from FHIR, and I mean, to be perfectly honest, the first couple that I did were kind of, I don't know, mediocre. I mean, the first thing I did, it was just a PowerPoint presentation, and I paid $150 for it, and I was raging after. So that was not great. Then I did an actual course, and the course, like an intro to FHIR course, and it was decent. But this FHIR prep course was definitely like, it was a lot of content. I mean, at the very least, I got my money's worth. It was like probably over 100 hours of video lectures, and
that's a lot.
Over 100 practice quizzes. And yeah, it was actually way more work than I was expecting it to be. And I went into it like with already a decent understanding of basic FHIR concepts. So I think for me it was like a really good spot, because it was like I knew most of the stuff, but it definitely like filled in a lot of gaps and solidified a lot of things for me. And yeah, because like I hadn't spent a lot of time, thinking about FHIR search, for example, and yeah, a few other things. So I don't know if you have the cash, or if your work will pay for it for you. I do think that course was useful. And then otherwise, yeah, just getting some hands-on experience. I kind of alluded to it earlier, but I wrote a big like 8-chapter blog about FHIR resources and just like introduction to FHIR for beginners. And for me, actually writing that, it was like a 10,000 word blog. That was actually what I found most useful to learn stuff, because I went from like essentially zero knowledge about FHIR to when I finished writing that blog, it took like a couple of weeks, if not a couple of months, to write it all. But yeah, I think it's pretty common. If it's like, what do they say when you want to learn something? It's like you do one, or like watch one, do one, and teach one. So writing that blog was like trying to teach it to people, because like I had read the FHIR spec and it was like, okay, this makes sense. But then trying to write it all out in my own words and explain it using my own analogies, that's when it really sort of like solidified for me a lot of those concepts. So like, yeah, all of this vibe coding stuff is fun, and it was like an interesting side project, but really like going through and writing it out and yeah, trying to teach it was, I think for me at least, what worked the best.
Okay. Yeah, I know you like to teach as well. Kind of jives with your personality.
Yeah.
Okie dokies. Well, we have one. What is this? We have another comment here from Jin about GitHub repo. It may help you. No idea what this is.
It's a repo, Firestarters. Oh, sounds interesting. Okay, yeah, cool.
Sample project. Okay, cool beans. Well, thanks
It's
for sharing.
from FHIR. I think, like Brian, you've talked about FHIR before, right? I think.
I don't know what this. Oh, maybe about a collection of example projects to get you up to speed. Cool. Very cool.
Okay, thank you. I will take a look at that.
Yeah, thanks for sharing, Jen. Okay, I think that is time. I was expecting this to only take 30 minutes. We went a little bit over, but that is good. It was nice little chit chat and like learnings. But thanks for jumping on, Steve. We'll be back for episode 2 when you do your next app.
Yeah, that one will be much shorter.
But yes, there's actually quite a few friends of mine who are also diving head first into a lot of this vibe coding, and it's like so fascinating to just watch people's ideas trickle into something that you can deploy. But yeah, it'd be cool to see what else you build. And when did you say your FHIR exam was?
I have paid for the exam, but I have not yet scheduled it. So I'm still waiting for them to send me a voucher to do that. But probably in the next couple of weeks is what I'm thinking.
Gotcha. Okay. We got one more comment here. Oh yeah, thanks.
You're welcome.
So thanks you. Okay, cool. Yeah, and thank you, Steve. Thanks for coming on, chatting with everyone, sharing your wisdom here and experience. It was pretty cool, and I imagine some people could probably take advantage of the flashcards that you built too. So
yeah, go nuts.
All right, stick around, Steve. Don't jump off yet. We can end the stream and then we can chit chat afterwards.
Sounds good.
All right, thanks everyone. See you all next time.